paragraph, beginning, I have made it clear. It's highlighted in the first paragraph, right there.
I have made it clear to all concerned that I wish to continue my position and obtain promotion opportunities based on merit.
I have made it clear to all concerned that I wish to continue in my position and obtain promotional opportunities based on merit. That statement obviously is in the memo that she sent to you on August 18th, correct?
If it's dated properly, yes.
Well, tell me if it's stated properly. Take a look at it.
Yes, August 18th.
Did she tell you in the August 18th, 2017 memo that she wanted to remain in her position as finance director and obtain promotions within the city? Did she state that in her memo? It's my only question.
It's stated right there.
And you read that, correct?
Yes.
At the time that you received this memo on August 18th, 2017, at that time, had you communicated to her the fact that, had you sent her anything in writing that she was separating from the city?
No.
Was the first time that you sent Ms. Parchment a memo telling her that you were accepting her resignation and she was separating from the city, was the first time that you wrote that to her on August 22nd, 2017?
That was the first time I wrote it, but it wasn't the first time I communicated it.
Okay. When, prior to that date, did you communicate to her in writing, that you were accepting her resignation, in writing?
There's no instrument.
What?
No, there's no instrument.
Okay.
That answers your question?
So am I correct in saying the first written instrument that you wrote stating that you were accepting her resignation and she was separating from the city, the first written instrument you wrote stating that was after you received her August 18th, 2017 memo, is that correct?
Yes.
And you wrote that memo on August 22nd for the first time accepting her resignation after she made the statement in this memo, I have made it clear to all concerned that I wish to continue in my position and obtain promotional opportunities based on memo. My question is this: was your memo accepting her resignation, was that instrument given to her after you received her memo making that statement? Yes or no?
That was given to her, but you got to realize when she gave me that was my letter was in a draft, and it was a weekend that elapsed between the time that she gave me that and the time that I gave her the 22nd. I properly dated my memo, but that wasn't the first conversation that we had about the matter.
Is it your testimony, because we are going to issue a subpoena to IT as soon as we leave, is it your testimony that in your computer is a draft memo accepting her resignation that predates the memo of August 18, 2017?
No, I didn't say that. I said it was in draft form. Draft form can take on many different forms, as you know. Okay. And I was writing my letter, and then I concluded. I finished it over the weekend. I had my secretary to type that up and issue it.
Well, where was this draft?
It's probably on the legal pad somewhere.
Okay. We have done a request for production in this case to you and the city, to your attorney and the city, requesting these documents. Is it your testimony under oath today that you have a legal pad somewhere with a draft of this letter? Is that your testimony?
No, it isn't.
Objection argument.
Okay.
Really?
Excuse me, no, now you're testifying for your witness. I've asked him a simple question. What's your objection?
Hang on a second, sir.
What's
You
your
just
objection?
made my point again. Lower your voice.
What's your objection?
I'm not going to stand for you yelling at my client. Okay?
What's
And
your
I'll take it
objection?
in front of the court.
Go
Objection.
ahead.
Argumentative.
Okay.
Argumentative.
Okay, is it your testimony today
Thank you,
under
Michael.
oath, and I'll state it very quietly. Is it your testimony under oath, sir? Is it your testimony that you have on a legal pad somewhere a draft of your memo of August 22nd, 2017 that you wrote prior to August 18th, 2017? Is that your testimony?
My testimony is that I drafted up the memo. I don't know where that legal pad is at. It's not in my possession, but that is what predicated that my response to her letter. So it's not there.
Okay. Is there any document? Well, what happened to the legal pad?
I'm a city manager. We go through pads, I write notes, I do memos, I do a whole plethora of things. You got to realize that I'm not going to sit here and hold on to a legal pad that I wrote something down on that I gave to my secretary to type up. So that was typed up and it was given to Ms. Parchment.
Is it your testimony today under oath that you gave your legal secretary in City Hall a draft of your memo of August 22nd, 2017 prior to Ms. Parchment's memo of August 18th?
No, I gave it to the day of that the memo was issued.
Okay, so let's go back for a second. Is your testimony that you wrote a draft of your August 22nd memo before August 18th? Or did you do it the date of August 22nd?
The draft was being written prior to the 22nd. Prior to the 18th, I started forming out my letter, and I had my secretary to type it up and give it to Ms. Parchment on that particular date.
Did you give the draft to your secretary prior to August 22nd?
I gave it to her on the 22nd.
What evidence do you have? Well, no. Did you give her your draft on a legal pad?
Yes, that's what I write on.
Okay. And do you know where that legal pad is?
No, I do not.
Did you destroy it?
No, it's probably somewhere around the office if you want to go take a look.
Okay. Well, wouldn't that be a public record, Mr. Brown?
If it was a public record, you know, if it's in my possession, if it's in the office, you're welcome to it. You're welcome to search and subpoena anything that's in my office.
Well, Mr. Brown, we have made a request.
Well, I'm not in that office, Mike.
Well,
So
what-
you would have to get that from the city manager, because all my records, everything that I use was left in that office. I didn't take it out, so it's a possibility that it could be there.
What proof do you have that you began drafting your memo of August 22nd, 2017 prior to August 18th?
Well, from what you're saying, there is no proof because I can't produce the legal pad.
So let me ask you this question, Mr. Brown. Your August 22nd memo, I want to introduce Mr. Brown's August 22nd memos. Both of them, gentlemen, please.
Let's start with Exhibit 9. Here. Let's
The one on separation from the
start with
city.
Exhibit 9.
I want you to look at, we're marking as Exhibit 9. You got that? I want you to read it.
I need the other one
Okay.
here. Can't take that.
Oh, okay, that's fine. We'll just leave it there, so I can... Did we find copies of that? Okay. And then Exhibit 10 is gonna be the memo, the other memo. You've read it? Okay.
I wrote it, yes.
Let me look at Exhibit 9, Mr. Jeffrey.
Exhibit 10.
Let me look at Exhibit 9, please. Okay, referring to Exhibit 9. You state on Exhibit 9 that you're accepting her resignation from the city effective immediately. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did you communicate to her that you were accepting her resignation prior to August 22nd, 2018?
No, we talked about her resignation. We talked about when she was going to leave. She said she did not have a date. She's, for these stated reasons right here, A, B, and C. That was her testimony. That was our conversation that we had. And also, the city had been advertising since March of 2017 for a finance director. I was told, let me finish. I was told by the transitional city manager, Ms. Harrell, that Ms. Parchment was leaving. And that was also communicated at the Financial Oversight Board meeting that she was leaving. So, you know, we had that conversation. These were her reasons for leaving.
What about the fact that she told you on August 18th that she wanted to stay with the city and prosper and get a promotion?
That was after the fact. You know,
what fact?
after the fact that she had wrote a memorandum saying that she was being retaliated against. It was also after I had did some research on Ms. Parchment. Ms. Parchment never completed the 2014-15 audit. She never did the financial statements. Ms. Parchment had also went to the city manager, not city manager, city attorney to inquire. She said that that I was trying to get her to do something corrupt. She was communicating that, you know, I was involved in an illegal activity, and I felt as though at that particular time I could not trust her, and those were some of the things. Another company, A.L. Jackson, when I talked to the proprietor, they left the city because they could not get any cooperation from Ms. Parchment. They were the ones that were in charge of doing the 5-year recovery plan. I had spoken to the finance director, not the finance director, the budget director. He stated that she would not give him the fund balance, so he could not properly do the budget for the 2017-2018 year. So there were a series of conversations that I had with people about the financial conditions of the city, specifically her assignments. Not only that, but the situation came up where she didn't want to process the overtime pay. She did not want to fill out a simple form for $187,000 reimbursement with our shared revenue. So Ms. Parchment basically was showing up to work, and that was it, you know. So based on that, everything that was done was basically done for employment reasons. She basically was derelict in her duties in terms of her responsibilities. She also had given herself a self-imposed raise of $10,000, for which you know about. She also had accused the assistant city manager, for which was in your complaint, of physically stopping her from doing her job. For my own purposes, I asked the internal affairs of the police department to do an investigation as to that, and it became relevant, and you were contacted. You did not respond. They went to her house to get her side of it, because all I wanted to know what was the truth. Because when you say that somebody's been physically stopped from doing their job, that means that somebody physically put their hands on her. So it was incumbent upon me to find out, because if that had happened, I would have had to take a different course of action. Your client did not, and you did not return over 10 phone calls. They went to our house to get her statement. She refused to give a statement. They concluded a report from Internal Affairs that she did not want to participate. So those were the relevant factors that contributed to my letting her go, terminating her employment.
Well, you've listed all of those factors. You've mentioned them. They're obviously in the record now, all the factors that resulted in her separation, and we appreciate you telling us that. So let's go back for a second. Where in your separation memo did you list all of those factors?
If you go back to the other memorandum that was given to her simultaneously. Everything that I just said was in that memo as well.
So you're saying that she did not voluntarily resign?
She said that she was resigning,
And then
and I accepted her termination. I mean, I accepted her
you
resignation.
accepted her what?
Her resignation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And of course, prior to doing that, as you've stated, she wrote a memo complaining about retaliation, right? Is that correct?
Yes, yes, she did.
And she complained to the city attorney about things she was being asked to do by you and your staff, right?
Yeah, they weren't true, but she did.
Okay. And her memo on retaliation and her complaints to the city attorney about which she alleged was improper conduct, she did all of that before you wrote the memo on August 22nd accepting her resignation. Is that correct?
Well, when she wrote her memorandums, I have to be given an opportunity to respond. And I responded to her memorandums on the 22nd.
Okay.
So there's nothing that I have to do to immediately respond. She gave me something on the 18th. I got to give her something on the 18th. I gave it to her when I went, did my research. I looked at that. I talked to the staff. And I just didn't feel like the things that she put in any one of those memos added up. And that contributed to me terminating her employment.
Okay, that's fine. At this point, what we're going to do is, I just have a couple more questions in a different area.
It's 4 o'clock.
It's 4 o'clock, you gotta go?
Yes.
Okay, then we'll at this point, I just want to ask you about Exhibit 10. Exhibit 10, before I get to Exhibit 10,
That's gonna run over.
well,
you know.
okay, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Brown, but I want to just ask you if you recognize Exhibit 10? You've seen that document before?
Yes.
And I know you have to go, so let me just finish 2 questions in this area, so then we'll get you out of here. Did you ever, I just have 2 or 3 questions. Do you have her memo on due process? I just want to get it in the record. Her memo of August. Dave, I want to introduce that real quick.
Folders.
Okay, I'll give it to you. Here it is. Hang on a second, I got it right here. It's her memo of August 23rd, Mr. Rhino.
It's not even mine.
Okay, that's okay, we don't need it. We're gonna finish up, because you have to go. I don't wanna know the reasons back or forth. Would it be fair to say that Ms. Parchment was never given any, you read her complaints of August 18th? Regardless of your opinion of them, did you ever, after August 18th, did you ever sit down with Ms. Parchment and address those issues with her, have a meeting with her? My only question is, after her August 18th memo, where she complained about retaliation and a hostile work environment, my only question is, prior to her separation from the city on August 22nd, did you ever sit down and meet with her and address those issues?
Objective form.
I met with her on the 22nd after I had reviewed her memos, and I gave her my response to her responses.
How long was the meeting?
The meeting, what, half an hour, something like that?
So it's your testimony that you met with her on August 22nd for a half hour?
That's my testimony.
Okay. And who were the witnesses to that meeting?
My administrative assistant,
Okay.
Miss Lawson.
Is it true, Mr. Brown? Why would Ms. Lawson have told people that you called in Ms. Parchment, handed her the memos, and immediately had Ms. Lawson escort her out of the building. Is Ms. Lawson not telling the truth?
Objection form.
Okay, you can answer.
She had an opportunity to read the memorandums.
And then she was escorted out.
Excuse me, please, objection. form.
Okay.
Thank you.
After you gave her, prior to August 22nd, how long after you met with her on August 22nd?
You're withdrawing the other question.
Withdrawing the other question. When you met with her on August 22nd, how long from the time she walked into your office was she escorted out of the building by Shemek Lawson?
We'll say 30 minutes.
Okay, so you met with her on August 22nd, and 30 minutes after you gave her the memo, she was escorted out of the building under your direction. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And there was no transition, is that correct?
Transition for, what do you mean?
The finance department.
Transition for the finance department? The finance department was what it was.
How long had she been with the city?
I think you're her attorney, you should know that.
Well, I'm asking you.
I really don't know.
So you did not call her in and say your last date is a month from now, or a week from now, or tomorrow. You called her in, gave her your memo of August 22nd, and a half hour later she was escorted out of the building. Is that what happened, yes or no?
Florida's an at-will state,
Okay,
and you don't have to afford any due process.
okay.
She was informed. She was given the opportunity to go to her office, pick up her things, get on the elevator, and go home. And I did that, and I had a witness, which was Miss Lawson, to make sure that nothing was said out of line, out of context. I wanted to have a witness that I didn't have any derogatory statements to say to her other than what was given to her. So I gave her the same privilege that I would have given anybody else. And that was the procedure that I followed, and that's what happened.
And because, and just to be clear, you've been around a long time, you were the manager, because Florida's an at-will state, it's your testimony she was entitled to no due process. Is that your testimony?
Objection.
If I'm in a position as a city manager and I no longer want to have you employed under me, with me, or for the city, I have the administrative rights to have you removed.
Without due process?
Due process was you was given notification, and you were afforded the same privilege that she afforded me. Her memorandum talking about retaliation, she didn't follow the proper procedures as far as grievance. You know about grievance. You've been a mayor of a city that sits right here. And instead of just coming to me, a person that had promoted her to an interim position, a person that had pretty much shared dinner with her, a person that never had any foul words with Ms. Parchment. We never had any heated arguments. We never had any heated discussions. She preferred, and I'm quite sure she was following counsel, and instead of just telling me or informing me, she gave me a memo that she sent to the state attorney's office, corruption, and every place else. And when you do that, then you have violated everything in terms of what I would do in a prudent position, because that was extremely wrong, and that's not an opinion, that is fact. She didn't follow the protocol, and it seems as though her memorandum was just a cry out to draw attention. So I'm finished.
Okay, so but for all those reasons, the only due process she was entitled to was to read your memo and leave the building.
That's the floor.
Yes.
Pardon?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so at this point, well, let me ask you this question. If I
Gave you
could.
5 minutes.
I gave you 5 more minutes, and we already had this. Just like I gave you an hour that I waited for you.
Okay.
Now give me my 5 minutes. I've given you over 4 o'clock. I informed you. We talked about it in the hallway. So let's just amicably just end the meeting, set another time, and let's go from there, Mike. Come on, let's not play
You want to
games.
stick around for one more question?
No.
Okay, at this point, what we'll do is, since you have to leave, I'll conclude the depot, but I want to just talk on the record for a second as to a date when we could reschedule this so we can get our calendars out. Mr. Brown?
You can deal with my attorney.
I will deal with him.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, y'all have a good day.
Okay.
You're adjourning, you're not concluding.
No, we're adjourning, we're adjourning, and we're adjourning and we're not
We all
concluding.
got, you know.
We want to do this one
Microphone.
soon. We're off the
That's a
record.
microphone. We'll talk to you outside about that.
So why don't you, if you can give us a date, and Chris, you, 1 second, we have something for you.
Oh, great.
Council, are you ordering the depots?
Yes, we are, we're ordering the video and the
Both?
depot, correct, yes, both,
Both
yes.
depots.
Absolutely.
I will
Thank
take
you.
the
Are you
ball.
gonna get off the record now?
Take the
We're off the
top.
record.
Mr. Chairman, what